Israeli soccer is off to a wild European season start, one I honestly can't recall happening before. 4 out of 4 teams advance to the next round and keep their chances for a long European season alive. First of all, Hapoel Sheva secures itself a long European season with a 2-0 win over Vikingur. I have to say, this was also the matchup I personally was most worried about, because if the Israeli champion somehow got into a slump and couldn't beat Vikingur, as I showed in the previous video I made last week, quite a few teams have struggled to beat them in Iceland. But in the second leg, you have to get the job done, and that's exactly what Sheva did. It wasn't very impressive, it wasn't brilliant soccer, but Sheva was better, created more chances, and in the end, deservedly won. But even though it's a very early stage of the season, especially now that they're losing Kangwa, they'll need to bring in more reinforcements in the form of dominant foreign players in order to have a strong season both in Israel and in Europe. It's difficult, as we saw last year with Maccabi Tel Aviv. They need more funds, foreign players, and quality reinforcements to compete in both competitions simultaneously. Although I have to say that in this specific match, it was actually Kangwa who got to 2 excellent chances, and in the end, he missed them, but he was also responsible. You could somehow say that about Ganak's assist at the end, which gave them the 2-0. In any case, Sheva is the better team. In the end, they got the job done. It doesn't matter, and no one will remember if they did it impressively or not, but you can already start to draw conclusions from this for the future. In the next stage, they have a very tough challenge. Red Star Belgrade, the Serbian champion for 9 years in a row, and a team with a rich European history. Even though Maccabi Haifa knocked them out back in the day to reach the Champions League, almost every year they make it to the Champions League group stage or the Europa League. Usually, they don't do much beyond that, but they get there. They're present. They're a level above Israeli football, at least on paper. They also started the season fantastically, both in Europe and in the league, with 5-0 and 3-1 wins in the league and 4-0 and 5-0 against their opponent in the Champions League qualifiers. That doesn't necessarily reflect the matchup with Sheva, which is likely to be closer on paper than those matches, but Sheva is still the underdog. By the way, familiar names here are Lukasen, of course, Mohamed Abu Fani, who we know well, and Luizao, who until recently played for Hapoel Tel Aviv. In short, in my opinion, Sheva has already done its job by securing a long European season. That was the most important thing for them as the champions of Israel, and now it's their time to invest, knowing for sure they have this European season. They have to bring in quality foreign players, because losing Kangwa is a big loss, and they'll need to hit the jackpot to bring in players who can replace him and be at about the same level. Moving on to the next team, which is very close to securing a European season, and that's Maccabi Tel Aviv, who beat Sheriff Tiraspol 6-0 on aggregate over the 2 matches. 6-0 is incredibly impressive. It's not just the score, but the performance too. Even here, I thought they deserved more than a 1-0. There was a penalty not called at the end. Even in this game, they almost completely neutralized Sheriff Tiraspol, and there were situations where maybe they didn't always get a clear scoring chance, but the combinations between the players, the way the team plays, it feels very well coached. And of course, I want to put the spotlight and emphasis on Roy Revivo and on how Kenny Miller uses his abilities. He doesn't play just as a left back, he plays as a fullback, midfielder, or even forward with almost total creative freedom. He usually creates space for himself on the wing, and here he moves into the half space, but he really does have creative freedom, and he's also a very creative player. It seems that so far this position is bringing out the best in him at the start of the season, and Maccabi Tel Aviv looks fantastic. Now, I don't know if it's because Sheriff Tiraspol looks terrible, and honestly, it's not the same team we've known in recent years, or if Maccabi Tel Aviv is really that good. Given how they look now, it would be disappointing if they don't have a long European run in the Europa or Conference League. They're facing CSKA Sofia in the next round, who finished 4th in Bulgaria last year. That means it's not the team we remember from years past. And they got past Carabao after 2 games that ended 0-0. I watched some highlights from both matches just to see the team. Carabao were much better, they were all over their goal, but just couldn't score. Last year, they finished below Ludogorets in the league, who we'll discuss soon and who lost to Hapoel Tel Aviv. And Ludogorets finished with a goal difference of +36 while they finished with +17. And of course, these are all just dry statistics, and football, especially in Europe, is a very dynamic game and anything can go in any direction. But in my opinion, Maccabi Tel Aviv comes in as the favorite, and they should set themselves the goal of beating CSKA Sofia and securing themselves a European campaign as well. If that happens, remember to consider it when building your Fantasy 9 team for the Israeli Premier League, which uses similar rules to Fantasy Premier League and launches this coming Sunday, August 2nd in the first rounds. This will affect players from Maccabi Tel Aviv, Hapoel Sheva, and possibly Beitar Jerusalem and Hapoel Tel Aviv. But in my opinion, Revivo is a no-brainer. Anyone who doesn't put him in their team, I just can't understand it. He's the defender with the best value there is. And detailed explanation videos about both the classic game and the draft game will be uploaded this coming Sunday, so don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell. It really helps us grow and keep creating content if you like it and want more of it. That's it. From here, we move on to 2 completely different stories in my opinion. Because I think they represent the stories of Israeli soccer, or at least they reminded me of Israeli soccer stories, especially with Beitar Jerusalem. Beitar had a 1-0 lead over Larnaca and played well in the first match, deserving more than just a 1-0 win. And also in the second match, in my opinion, we showed all the symptoms of Beitar Jerusalem in Europe in past years and of Israeli soccer. Being the better team, controlling the ball, creating chances. Beitar was, in my opinion, 2 levels above Larnaca in both matches, and it felt like even though Beitar was so much better, they were very naive. These are the classic Israeli soccer matches where you're leading and dominant, then suddenly a silly penalty in the box happens, a player raises his hand, and it's 1-0 to Larnaca. A free kick, the wall doesn't jump, the goalkeeper doesn't move, 2-1, and of course the culmination was Miguel Silva's fumble in the 92nd minute. These are things you say. All the symptoms of naivety in Israeli soccer. 2 set pieces, a goalkeeper's fumble that's just unreal on a very weak shot, not a shot that should have been difficult to handle even though the grass there was terrible, especially around the goal area. Meanwhile, Atzili keeps Beitar alive with 2 great goals. The penalty may not seem exceptional, but it resulted from determination, coming from behind, risking a kick, and drawing the foul. He truly made a difference for Beitar Jerusalem. The second one left me speechless, and he nearly scored again with an early free kick. That's not even mentioning Yarden Shua's wild miss in extra time around the 111th minute. It was as if everything was working against Beitar, putting them in a situation where they would be eliminated, but luckily in the end, Silva managed to save 2 penalties, and they barely managed to get past Larnaca, even though in my eyes they were the better team. But sometimes that's what you have to do to gain European experience. And unrelated to that, I have to say that in my opinion, Beitar looks good. Antwi, the right back, looks amazing. Yarden Cohen, they have so many offensive tools, even from the bench, by the way, and also their challenge in the next stage. Austria Vienna, who finished 4th last year in Austria with a negative goal difference, they have the points halving system here, and that's why you see that they lost 13 games, the most in the championship round, and still finished in 4th place. They won 5-1 in the previous round against a team from Latvia in matches that were pretty one-sided, especially the second game at home in Austria was one-sided, but this is a team that stayed the same as last year. They lost 4 players, one of whom was a significant starting midfielder who scored and assisted 8 goals and moved to Salzburg. Other than that, it's the same team. So I don't know if Beitar are favorites because Beitar doesn't have much experience in Europe, but they have a lot of talent. It's not unreasonable to say that Beitar can get through this. I don't know if they should. They can get through this round. As I mentioned about Israeli football's naivety, you could sense it, especially since Hapoel Tel Aviv and Beitar played simultaneously. In the Hapoel Tel Aviv match, they led 2-0, then scored early, so things looked good. But after Dudu Goretz missed the penalty, they conceded twice. Early in the second half, it felt like a turnaround was imminent. It really wasn't far from that, but Hapoel Tel Aviv showed character with another Boateng goal. Like in the first game, they mainly sat back and tried to neutralize Dudu Goretz. In the first game, it worked better, but less so in the second, as they mainly relied on counterattacks. And we have to say, this result of Hapoel Tel Aviv winning 4-2 on aggregate over Dudu Goretz, in my opinion, is a huge surprise. No less than that, after so many years since Hapoel were last on any kind of European campaign, to win and get past Dudu Goretz is truly a great achievement. Now we have to say, also in the case of Hapoel Tel Aviv, on one hand it's a huge achievement, and on the face of it, they've done their part. No one will be surprised if they get knocked out in the next round, but here they took Dudu Goretz's seeding, just like Beitar did with Larnaca. They inherited the seeding from stronger teams, and that's why they got more favorable potential opponents in the next round. Both are unseeded teams, so their chances of reaching the Conference League aren't high. If they advance, they'll likely face tougher opponents in the playoffs than now. Not that it's impossible, it's just relatively hard. So Hapoel Tel Aviv gets a Polish team called Katowice, which finished just below Legia Warsaw last year, in 5th place, and 2 years ago was in the 2nd division in Poland. Hapoel was in the National League just 2 years ago. Still, it's realistic to hope for 4 Israeli teams in the playoffs. It can happen. Even if there are 3 teams, the Poles in the previous round beat Zelina from Slovakia 4-3. They barely won, and that was at home. It seems they were better, at least in terms of statistics. In short, it's hard to point to a clear favorite here as well, because Polish soccer is usually better and higher quality than Israeli soccer, and we definitely don't have home advantage, but it's not unreasonable to think, it's not unreasonable to dream. If Beitar or Hapoel Tel Aviv advance to the playoffs, they could face Ajax, whose player Oscar Gloukh began the season with 4 goals. He played about 70 minutes in each of his 2 Conference League games against Viborg Dina. 3 in the last game, excellent goals, very nice technique. Expected goals of 0.51 turned into 3 goals with his excellent finishes, which raised the post-shot expected goals to 2.44. It's very important, especially for him, to secure his spot in the lineup and to keep his place in the starting 11. It's crucial for him to continue his career and keep his spot at Ajax, since it's still a great place for him. Even though Ajax had a bad season last year, the narrative in football changes quickly. We'll wrap up with ranking points. Currently, we have 4 active representatives in all competitions and are on track for at least 2 in a long European season. That's important since almost all countries around us in the rankings, especially after 2 difficult years for us, have lost at least 1 representative, some even 2 or 3. For example, here with Slovenia, which has already lost 3 representatives, and that will help us overtake them both in the near future and also build something for the coming years. Hopefully, I don't know, probably not this year, but maybe next year, football will return to Israel and we'll be able to continue competing again for higher spots in the rankings, which also lead to up to 5 potential teams that can play in Europe, 2 teams in the Champions League and so on, as you can see here with Scotland and Austria and so on. By the way, people asked me last time about ranking points for teams. It's important to clarify that at this stage, every win or draw by any Israeli team contributes ranking points to the country, but not to the teams themselves. Teams earn ranking points up to the group stage solely based on the stage where they were eliminated. If teams like Hapoel Tel Aviv or Beitar Jerusalem are eliminated now, they get X. If they're out in the next round after reaching the 3rd round, they get an extra half or 1 point. Teams start earning points for themselves only at the group stage. Reaching the group stage benefits teams in later years with easier qualifier draws, helping them avoid opponents like Ludogorets, Larnaca, or Red Star Belgrade, whom Hapoel Beersheva was just drawn against in the Champions League's 3rd qualifying round. For the country, every draw and win matters. For example, Beitar didn't earn points against Larnaca last match, but got points for advancing to the next round. For teams, advancing to the next round is more important. In the league stage, every draw or win gives points to both the country and the team. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. On Sunday, we're starting our fantasy season with Tesha Fantasy, now available in every app store and on the website 9c.co.il. The teams won't be available yet and will only open on Sunday when all the prices will also be revealed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm Yisrael Chai. Alright, bye.